So, Yvonne, these 6 hostages were older residents of the kibbutzim around the Gaza periphery. The IDF had announced the deaths of 5 of them in the months preceding. Now, they knew that some of them had died, and they thought they had died potentially from IDF fire, so most likely from airstrikes. And the 6th person, Avraham Munda, they did not know if he was alive or dead, so the retrieval of his body confirmed what had happened to him. They also say there was no fighting involved in the retrieval. They described it as a complex operation to recover the hostages, their remains, from a tunnel underneath the southern Gazan city of Khan Younis. But it looks like they'd been abandoned there and they had been killed some time before. The IDF says it's investigating how they were killed, but the families say they've been told it's likely they were killed by Israeli fire. That's it's heartbreaking news for those families, and most of them have already, before now, when they were told of their deaths, and even further today, have really condemned the Israeli government's approach to the negotiations. They say that these people should have been released earlier. A deal should have been done earlier that would have saved their lives.
Well, Eric, is this news going to have much of an impact on negotiations over a ceasefire deal? Where are talks at?
Not on the Israeli government, but certainly perhaps on Israeli public opinion, which, most Israelis are already despairing about the fate of the hostages. We now know that there's 109 remaining in Gaza, and the Israeli government believes that less than half of those might still be alive. So the Israeli public is very, very keen for a deal, but the talks. The United States, which is the primary broker of the talks, has been saying that they're progressing very well, that they've been very constructive, but privately it doesn't look like things are going so well. We know at least Hamas has already said the latest proposal is a non-starter. They are blaming Israel for adding new conditions to a deal they already accepted. And privately from the Israeli government, while Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is saying that he's in favour of the deal, apparently that's not what he's told his senior officials.
Well, Eric, there is a lot going on behind the scenes, it appears, and much reading between the lines as well when we consider statements from both sides. What are the roadblocks to the deal?
So Hamas has always said there needs to be a permanent ceasefire and a total Israeli withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. And at the moment, Israel, according to the reports coming out of Israel, the Israeli government is insisting on maintaining control of something called the Netzarim corridor. That's a line of Israeli troops and checkpoints about halfway across the Gaza Strip. And they want to vet the people moving back from the south to the north. Hamas is against that, potentially because it might want to move some of its fighters from the south to the north, but also because, tens of thousands of displaced people, hundreds of thousands of displaced people, in fact, are going to want to return to their homes, and they're going to want to do so freely. So Hamas has always been against that. But not just that, they don't want any remaining Israeli troop presence inside the Strip. Israel's also insisting on retaining full control of the border between Gaza and Egypt. That's something that the IDF chief of staff has said they don't need to do. He thinks an arrangement can be worked out, but Benjamin Netanyahu is reportedly set on maintaining that, and they also want to maintain control of the Rafah border crossing. It means Israel would have essentially a hermetic seal around Gaza, full say on who goes in, who goes out, and what else comes in and out. And that's something that Hamas has always said is a red line. The other thing Hamas has identified is they say Israel wants a veto right on which prisoners are going to get released as part of an exchange for the hostages inside Gaza. So which Palestinian prisoners held by Israel are going to get released. And it says Israel needs to put forward a fair terms for the hostage prisoner exchange. So privately, we're hearing from Israeli officials that there are still pretty big gaps from Benjamin Netanyahu signing off to the current US proposal, and Hamas is accusing the US of adopting the new conditions from Israel. Hamas says it accepted a US proposal in the early part of July. It said this is part of the President Biden framework. It was on board, and then it said Israel came back and added new conditions that it had always said were red lines. So that's where we're at. We had the US saying we'll get a deal done. We'll have further negotiations in Cairo by the end of the week, and you have Hamas saying this is an unfair deal, and you have Israel privately saying, well, we know Hamas is not going to accept these conditions, but we're not going to compromise on them.
Such complex negotiations happening at this point in time. Eric Tlozek, thank you.